Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the organizers, Adi, and everyone else who made this possible. Beautiful people, throwing lots of shine everywhere. Can remember that we're also on lands that have been taken from some people, and gratitude to them. So I think of Black data as an atmosphere, and it's intended to evoke a kind of interlocking assemblage of meanings tied to technology, politics, and racialized Blackness. So I think about, for example, the opacities of technological Black boxes, the violences of Black sites, the revolutionary impulses embodied by anarchist Black blocs, where Blackness is indexed not only in the sartorial choice of slimming Black, but through the ways that masks anonymize and massify at once. Black data is also built on this understanding that people of African descent have long been subjected to forms of technological mastery that have been shaped by a variety of calculuses. Catherine McKittrick writes, "This is where we begin. This is where historic Blackness comes from. The list, the breathless numbers, the absolutely economic, the mathematics of the unliving." Black data hums intimate, too, as when I received, through a proxy, this message from an administrator at my college who had concerns about my relationship with a former student and whether I was really at a residency program the college had so generously granted me time away to go to. Surveillance much? Or when I compare my salary to those of others at my institution. Or when I revisit the number of my fellow faculty of African descent. So actually, in the full rank professor, that has been a professor emeritus. I am now the only tenured full professor in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences of African descent. I will drag them all the way. Sorry, was that too much data? So I think too of like Ikene Ijiomo is an artist and designer. This is a project called Ethnic Filter, and it reflects employment in data in design industries. The blurring of the filter correlates with the decreasing visibility of people of color in design. And I imagine creating a version of this for my institution's diversity splash page. So Afrofuturism is, of course, a term coined by Mark Derry in his 1994 Black to the Future. And you see it exploding over the last 4 or 5 years across the cultural landscape. So I won't rehearse this whole thing, except to say that, you know, in this conception, you know, Black people are who've experienced slavery or the descendants of slaves have been aliens who are displaced from their homes and pressured into forced mutations in order to accommodate themselves to new, unfamiliar, and hostile worlds. Sun Ra, right, so that's Sun Ra, that's LaBelle, like, so before Patti LaBelle was like in Patti LaBelle, she was in this like crazy Afro-Futurist band. Of course, we have Beyonce. Yesterday was like the Beyonce-Solange debate, and I was like, I don't know why you have to choose. And so I was like non-binary thinking. You know, Grace Jones, Parliament, P-Funk. Beyonce kept coming up twice, I don't know why. So the other kind of concept I'm using a lot is called the Undercommons. Are you guys familiar with this idea? So yeah, so the Undercommons is an idea developed by Fred Moten and Stefano Harney. Fred Moten, I think, is one of the leading Black intellectuals, a poet, a theorist, and just in general, awesome person. And one idea of the Undercommons is this idea that it's kind of existing alter space of the dispossessed. So think about maroon societies, right? The experiences of Black fugitivity and indigenous fugitivity that led folk together to create communities in places that were hostile to them. A central focus of the project is looking at the work of artists who are engaging these different themes. So I'll go through them really quickly. So this is Ayo Okunsinde. In his project, The Rift, he becomes Dr. Tani Mowo, who travels back in time to find the reasons for the collapse of his culture. This is the work of my friend, the anthropologist Elizabeth Chin. It's a speculative design project that uses performance to explore social fictions created by social facts. This is Kapwani Kiwanga, who in a series of performance lectures called Afro-Galactica imagines herself as an anthropologist from the future, coming back to inform audiences, usually white, about histories of Afrofuturism and the formation in 2058 of the United States of Africa Space Agency. Okay, this is what I really wanted to talk about. So how much time do I have? 1 minute? Okay. I can't use that. So this is, I teach a class called New Black Ethnographies every year, and students are asked to create speculative Afro-Futurist ethnographies. So they imagine themselves, like some of the artists I mentioned, as anthropologists in the future, coming back to the present or anywhere in time to conduct research. This is a project by my student Shannon, who imagined a world in which this super rich person, who's kind of kept himself alive through technology, creates a kind of Truman-esque dome in which self-aware robotic black family embodying characters from 90s sitcom lives, though of course they don't know that they are not real or robots. This was a project that my student Ty did, and it was like about holographic graffiti, and she made the graffiti. This is a project called the Hydro Noir from my student Danielle, beautiful project that imagines hybrids of deep sea aquatic life and slaves thrown overboard during the Middle Passage, kind of at some point coming back into the world and being immediately kidnapped by like the Biodefense Agency. However, rescued by QPOC underground resistance fighters in the ruins of post-apocalyptic New York City. This is a project by my student Nick, who imagined this world in which there's a floating metropolis moving across the Atlantic, celebrating Black excellence. And their project focused on a fashion show that took place on this floating island. I'll end there, my time's up. I'm happy to answer any questions about anything I presented here in the future. Thanks.